There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch. Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant, 27-year veteran, Bill Cannon, and with me tonight, straight out of Brooklyn, retired NYPD Detective Phil Grimaldi. How you doing tonight, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy. How you doing? How you feeling?
Not bad, not bad. You know, this Gabby Petito case, as we all know, it's been up for the civil trial, and they were all in court just the other day, just a couple of days ago, and I thought it was going to be a while, but really quickly, the decision has come back, at least to proceed forward with it. And I want to play this little this news clip because I think it summarizes it pretty damn well.
Family will get their day in court after all. A Sarasota judge has decided to allow their lawsuit filed by her parents to move forward. This comes days after images of Brian Laundrie's notebook were released, documenting his confession about killing Petito while they were on that cross-country trip last year. They're suing Laundrie's parents for causing them emotional distress, and the judge issued today an 8-page ruling.
As Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon reports, he found Gabby Petito's parents had a valid claim against the Laundries.
The Laundries' motion to dismiss the case has been denied. Judge Hunter Carroll says if the pair had truly remained silent, the ruling would have been in their favor. This comes a week after Gabby Petito's parents appeared in Sarasota County Court for the first hearing on their lawsuit against the Laundries, claiming while a cross-country search was underway for Gabby, Brian Laundrie's parents already knew what had happened to her. The Laundries tried to have the case thrown out, saying they had no obligation to speak under the First and Fifth Amendments. Last week, Patrick Riley, the attorney representing Gabby's family, said the statement released on September 14th, saying in part, "It is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family," gave that false sense of hope.
If someone doesn't find his statements, knowing all the facts that were known to the Laundries at that time, if somebody doesn't find that offensive and outrageous, I don't know what's outrageous.
That's what Judge Carroll agreed with in his ruling. He said the statement by the Laundries attorney was objectively outrageous. He continued on saying if the Laundries would have in fact remained silent, the court would have granted the motion to dismiss in their favor, but they did not. They may not have spoken themselves, but their lawyer, Stephen Bertolino, did the talking for them almost every day through text messages, statements, and interviews. In a statement, Bertolino said the Laundries and himself were disappointed with the judge's decision. They will continue to use all available legal means to preserve their rights. The court docket shows a jury trial scheduled for August of 2023. In Sarasota County, Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
Wow. That's all I have to say is wow. And one of the things that we as laymen, we as outsiders looking in, we didn't like the dirty pool that was played in this case. And the interesting thing about the judge's ruling was, had they truly remained silent, he would have had no other ruling to go to but to rule in their favor and to dismiss the case. However, you can't be 50% pregnant. And they talked about certain things. They pretended through their attorney that they knew that Gabby was still alive, when in fact we believe, and everyone believes, and there's probably documentary proof, as well as proof by people they had interviewed them, that Gabby was dead at that point. So how ugly is that, Phil?
That's very ugly, Billy. And I'm just hoping that there is some electronic evidence, like a text message from Brian to his parents or vice versa, or perhaps some type of communication that can be documented and can be later be brought into court. But the statement by this judge, Judge Hunter W. Carroll, I think is very, very powerful. He said that statements by the Laundries, knowing that Gabby was dead, knowing the location of her body, and knowing that her parents were frantically looking for her, if this is true, then the Laundrie statements were particularly callous, cruel, and it's sufficiently outrageous to state claims for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but those are powerful statements. I don't think you need a law degree to understand the wording here. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. I think that's the threshold that needs to be met for this lawsuit to be successful. Now, if they can prove that they had the knowledge and they had the fact that she was already dead, because, you know, Brian makes this statement in his notes that he killed her at a merciful, I wrote it down here. He used words like, it was merciful that this is what she wanted, but I see now that I made mistakes that I made and I panicked and I was in shock. Apparently he's claiming she hit her head and that she wanted to be put out of her misery. This is a totally ludicrous statement, but if they can prove that there was the fact known that she was already dead, and they put out that statement with their big mouth attorney, Stephen Bertolino, that they were hoping that the search was successful and she was reunited with her parents, knowing that she was already dead. I think that that's the threshold met for intentional infliction of emotional distress.
You know, there's a little, I'm going to read something that was in the New York Post. Gabby Petito's family filed an amended lawsuit. This was about a month ago, I believe, against Brian Laundrie's parents, claiming they went on vacation with their son, all while knowing he had killed the 22-year-old Long Island native and the whereabouts of her body, according to a local report. The amended complaint was filed in Sarasota County after a judge there noted procedural deficiency in the suit originally filed in March by Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt against Chris and Roberta Laundrie. Notably, according to the report, the new lawsuit claims that Laundrie took Brian to a Florida campground in September 2021 while knowing he had killed Gabby, the report states. The suit claims the Laundries were also aware of the location of Gabby's body, which is missing for nearly a month until authorities tracked it down in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. While Gabrielle Petito's family was suffering, the Laundrie family went on vacation to Fort DeSoto Park on September 6th to 7th, 2021, the suit states, according to the report. They went on vacation knowing that Laundrie had murdered Gabrielle Petito. It is believed that they knew where her body was located and further knew that Gabrielle Petito's parents were attempting to locate her, it adds. The suit does not provide evidence as to how they knew the Laundries knew the whereabouts of Gabby's body, according to the report. Their attorney declined to comment in an email to the Post Friday. On September 19th, Gabby's body was found in the Wyoming campground. A medical examiner later ruled she'd been bludgeoned and strangled to death. The FBI did not directly say Brian murdered her, but they found he was the sole suspect in the demise. Shortly after Brian returned to his parents' home in Northport, Florida, he went missing inside of a massive nature preserve until his remains were found in late October. It was later determined he died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So all of these things, it seems like, and there may be not just seems like, there may be documentary evidence, there may be electronic evidence, there may be testimonial evidence. Look, the Laundrie's attorney, he could wind up being a witness because he told a lot of lies. You know, in my opinion, what do you think?
Well, listen, there's other factors here that, are going to be brought out in court. Now, one of the factors that I think that's going to be very powerful is the fact that they tried to make contact. Gabby Petito's family tried to make contact with the Laundries to find out the whereabouts of Gabby since Brian wasn't responding. They had numerous attempts. They even went to the house. So they did everything that was expected of them. Now, once this Bertolino gets involved in the whole saga, I think he gave them bad advice because, our friend Joe Murray has said many times, keep quiet, don't say anything. They were better off not saying anything. What they should have said, I think, if they were going to say anything was, we don't know the whereabouts and we hope that she's recovered or found or whatever it was. But either way, they shouldn't have made any statements at that point. What they should have did, I mean, in a perfect world, maybe coax the son into surrendering to police, telling police the story, and then going to trial and hope for someday to visit him in jail and him to have a life after jail.
Phil, that's all easy to say, but all during this, they're being questioned by local law enforcement. They're being questioned by the FBI. The FBI got an arrest warrant for their son. their attorneys being questioned and called up by all kinds of law enforcement. So to keep totally quiet, the attorney would have to say, I plead the fifth. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to. And does an attorney have to do that? I don't think he has to do that.
Well, no, I think, Billy, if the FBI comes calling, they can say, listen, we don't want to, we don't have anything to say, speak to our attorney. And the attorney can say that they have nothing to add and they're not going to submit to any questioning. I think that that's within their legal right. But they didn't do that. They made these statements, and I think they kind of put themselves in the trick bag now for the civil suit. I don't know if there's a possibility. I think if there was going to be criminal charges, that already would have come forward. So I think that they put themselves in the trick bag now. I really didn't think that there was a lot of legs on this lawsuit to begin with. But now that we're finding out this judge's ruling and he's basing it on the statements that were made through the attorney by the parents, I think that, there's going to be, it looks like there's going to be a trial. It's going to move forward. I don't know if it gets thrown out somewhere down the line, but I think if this gets in front of a jury and all of the facts are brought out that they tried to make contact with these people had information knowing that she was already dead, based on possible, whether it be notes that he sent to them, emails or text messages, whatever it is, if they can prove that before this girl's body was found, that they knew she was dead and before that statement was made, then I think that the jury's going to rule in their favor. Now, I don't know, what kind of monetary, award would be made in a case like this. But I think just the fact that if the family gets a verdict in their favor in a civil suit, I think that will be a victory for them. I think that since Brian killed himself, they can't get any justice by putting him in jail. Can't put somebody that's dead in jail, obviously. But I think this will give them some type of a victory in the legal arena because
I think one of the things they want more truth to come out because there's many things that are still unknown. Let me play this here.
Page 4, that those claims are more appropriately addressed, if at all, at the summary judgment stage, which basically means that he wants to see this go further rather than this be dismissed at this stage in the legal process. Really quick, before we move on to the next phase, what do you think of this section of the argument?
Absolutely, and that's what I was referring to. The judge hinted that might be a basis to dismiss. He's not suggesting that it's going to happen. He's not going to give it away, obviously, because it's too early. But at a very minimum, if you look at it in this terms, the complaint is just the bare bones allegations. It's not the entire case. It doesn't summarize every single piece of evidence that's out there. And so as a result, the judge is saying, listen, this may be more appropriate for a summary judgment. And I can see where a judge could say that, so it makes complete sense. Words are protected, speech is protected, but I love that, but you got to look at it again from the totality of the circumstances. Mm-hmm. It's their actions. It's shutting down Facebook. It's giving the law, the family, Gabby's family, the false hope. Going on vacation, I may have said already. So I think that's what rises to the level of in my opinion, the intentional infliction of emotional distress. This poor family was suffering, and they still have to prove that at some point that the family knew that Gabby was already gone. And I think there is something there to be said that I think they knew. But again, we'll see as the evidence bear out. But you're right, that language right there is what I think the Laundrie family is going to rely on. Put all their chips and so to speak on that, all their eggs in one basket for that summary judgment. And as far as the question, real quick, listen, I just settled a wrongful death that took 3 years because the pandemic again shut everything down for about 9 months. So yeah, in this case is relative. I forgot how many months old it is, but yeah, I can see this going maybe in 2024, just because of the backlog.
I want to move to just a couple of paragraphs down here, because when I mentioned that there are some theatrics with the way that this is written by Judge Carroll, I want to read this last section of section number 1, and it reads as follows. If the facts of this case truly were about silence with no affirmative act by the Laundries, the court would have resolved this case in the Laundries' favor on the concept of legal duty, or more precisely, the lack of any legal duty for the Laundries to act. Had the Laundries truly stayed silent, the court would have granted the motion to dismiss in the Laundries' favor. But here's that one little line right here before section 2. But they did not stay silent. This is written with a little bit of drama, or at least that's how I'm reading it, Brian, saying that, but they did not say silent. And what Judge Carroll is arguing here is that had that statement not been put out, had they actually remained completely silent and not had the statement issued by Attorney Bertolino in September, then perhaps he's saying that the motion to dismiss would have been granted, making that statement put out by Attorney Bertolino in September so crucial to Judge Carroll's decision.
No, I agree. And again, so that's why the judge is looking at it from the totality of the circumstances. It was more than that. And again, I was looking at my notes, and if you forgive me as I look down, I mean, it's blocking the family from Facebook, blocking them, just instead of saying, listen, we're giving you hope. We hope she's still alive, but they're blocking, Gabby's family from any further communication. So the false statement of hope, just not revealing, and according to the theory, Gabby's family's theory, not revealing the location of Gabby's body. So if they knew, then absolutely, that is more than just remaining silent. I think that's what the court was saying by this affirmative actions that they did take. If they had just stopped and said, listen, we're just not going to talk to anyone. So I'm not blaming the lawyers for the Laundrie family, but I think remaining silent would have been sufficient. And then I don't think we would have been here. And I think the case would have been dismissed at this point.
Phil, I think that also in these big cases, the attorneys need to shut up too. I mean, if you watch during this case, Attorney Steve Bertolino was on every damn newscast every night of the week. Now, I don't care who you are, whether you're the sharpest attorney on this earth or whether you're a boob. If you run at the mouth, you're going to say something wrong sooner or later. And whether it's being questioned by a sharp reporter like Ashley Banfield, you could see when, I know I keep going to that, when she interviewed him, he got flustered. But guess what? He didn't have to be interviewed by her. You don't want to get flustered? Don't go on a damn TV interview with someone who you don't know what questions she's going to ask you. There's two types of things that lawyers do. A, they have the law degree where they get that 3-year degree, and after they go to an undergraduate degree, and they get that shiny law degree. And then there's something called lawyering, which is the practice of law. And that's why they call it a law practice, because you can have a law degree and not be any kind of lawyer. You only get to become a lawyer through lawyering and through practicing, being a practicing attorney.
Ashley Banfield certainly rattled his cage on several occasions, actually. So, yeah, I think he should have stayed out of the media spotlight with this case. And, the statement that Brian makes, it's obviously a self-serving statement. It sounded like it was concocted had he was going to be arrested and face trial. I think that's the defense that they were going to go with, which was probably submitted by Stephen Bertolino. Before you tell me anything, did she fall? Did she have an accident? Blah, blah, blah. It might have all been played out that way, but it was definitely a self-serving statement, I think. However, they allowed him to go into the nature preserve, and he wound up killing himself. I don't know that they had knowledge of that. If they did, that would be even more atrocious. But to let him get out of their grips and not face the music, that's what led to the suicide. I think they all have that on their conscience. They're going to have to deal with that. But I'm just glad that this judge seems to be, going in the favor of the Petitos. I mean, he ruled that Chris and Roberta Laundrie have until July 15th to respond to the allegations that they engaged in the intentional infliction of emotional distress. And there it is again, the intentional infliction of emotional distress. And I think that it's clear that they were emotionally distressed when they were on the hunt to find out where their daughter was. They went there, they started this, it was a national media case. And, it's clear that they definitely did go through that. If the Laundries could have provided information prior to all of that as to the whereabouts of Gabby Petito, that would have been, obviously a lot less emotionally stressful to them. So, it's probably a high bar to meet going forward in the civil trial. But if you do have some type of electronic evidence, like I said earlier, a text message where he's admitting killing her prior to him even getting back to Florida, that's going to be earth-shattering for their case. That's going to be
Phil, what kind of evidence was found in the truck? We don't know. The
Right.
FBI invoiced that truck or the local police. So there could be documentary evidence in that we don't even know about that indicates a timeline that is going to be damaging to the Laundries. So that there's also going to be electronic evidence that is going to be damaging to the Laundries. There's already evidence where it shows that he used Gabby's card. So there's all of that stuff. And then the Laundries trying to remain silent, but their attorney running at the mouth, I felt, at every newscast he could possibly go on. It doesn't go hand in hand. Let me play a little bit more of this and see what they have to say here.
So section 2 is titled The Laundrie Spoke. Section 3 is titled The Statement. And then, of course, it goes into, it says the Laundries contend that their statement is not outrageous as a matter of law. It continues down here with some comparative analysis to other cases. But really, that's going to be a big part of this now proceeding. And then also this is section 4 is what I really want to ask you about, because Matthew Luca, the Florida attorney representing the Laundries, really punctuated his pre-trial, the motion to dismiss hearing last Wednesday by saying that if this is allowed to go forward, if this trial is allowed to happen with this understanding that it was because the Laundries remained silent, or that's again their argument that the Laundries were remaining silent, he said that there will be an avalanche of litigation here in the state of Florida because of the precedent that it would set. What's your take on that argument? Because here you can see at the title of section 4, folks, you can see it on the center of your screen, Judge Carroll saying there will be no avalanche of litigation.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And so I think if anything, the opposite would be true. If the judge would have dismissed this, then I think more people who take, again, affirmative steps to not only assuming they're lying, assuming the Laundrie, for argument's sake, is lying, allows now, defendants to lie about what they know, remain silent, issue false statements of hope. And so I think it's the opposite. I think that and it's another way of the judge saying, no, every case has to be addressed case by case. It's, this is not legal precedent as far as I'm concerned, because the facts are so unique. Now, unless there's another case down the road in the future where, again, the defendants who just take the same course of action, maybe they can rely on this opinion or any further opinion. But no, I think the judge was correct. It's not going to open up an avalanche of cases because, again, they did more than just remain silent. And so the judge is letting them know, no, you should have done the opposite. You should have just kept quiet and we wouldn't be here. And he says it as much. He said as much. So I read that part and I thought it was right on point. And it gives hope for other people. Look, if you know something, say something. If you know that our relative, our loved one is dead, tell us. Don't give us false hope. And so I think there's enough evidence there that there's plenty. By the way, there's plenty of jury appeal. So if Gabby's family can get this to the jury, I can see a verdict in favor of Gabby's family, because everything speaks volumes in terms of the actions that the Laundrie family took in cutting everyone off and then going on vacation and maybe even taking steps to hide or help assist their son Brian from hiding. That's not going to look good at all in front of a jury. But again, there's that summary judgment stage that I think that we need to worry about if I were Gabby's family.
So the big thing is that the judge is almost telling the Laundrie family to settle, to make a summary judgment, to make an offer. I suppose it's a little early to do that, but he's putting that out there. We have our old buddy, our attorney friend in the chat, Joe Murray. Thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Hello, Sergeant Bill and Detective Phil. The decision was wrongly decided and will likely be reversed on appeal if they take an appeal. I can explain it very simply after reading the court's decision. But Joe, if it goes forward, it goes forward. And if they make a summary offer to settle this case, isn't the case basically over? They make a monetary offer to the Petito family. The judge has already ruled it's going to go forward. So then are you saying that it should go forward and then go to the jury, and then jury gives a verdict and then it's reversed on appeal? We're talking 10 years from now.
I think Joe's saying that the decision is wrong and they should appeal the decision right away. And maybe if they can get in front of another judge, perhaps they could, reverse that decision. But I don't know, is the judge basing his decision just on the oral arguments, or is it that he sees the evidence that they put forward and he's not talking about it, that's one of the things that I'm concerned with.
Phil, one of the things that Joe Murray said, and since I have him in here in the chat, I will use him, is the fact that you do not have to implicate yourself. You do not have to admit to anything. You have the right to remain silent. But the judge's ruling in this is that they had that right, but they didn't. They didn't keep their mouths shut. So now the court chooses to use what they said against them, as well as their attorney. I said, Joe Murray, I know you're in the chat and I love to talk to you with this. I felt Stephen Bertolino should have kept his mouth shut too. He ran at the mouth on every damn TV station there was, and that does not serve your client,
Well, he's also speaking on behalf of the family when he gives a statement from Chris and Roberta Laundrie, and he says the exact statement was that they hope that the search was going to be successful and that Miss Petito would be reunited with her family. Now, that statement is saying that they believe that she's still alive, obviously. And again, I don't think there would be an avalanche of cases what the Laundrie's attorney was responding to, that there'd be an avalanche if it was ruled in favor of the Petitos. It's the opposite, actually, because if they had remained silent and then he ruled in favor of the Petitos, then I would understand there could be an avalanche, because now, everybody's remaining silent and they're still getting pulled into a civil case, but they didn't. That's the fact. That's the most important thing. They made that statement through the attorney. And I think there's enough here. I mean, maybe there's stuff that we don't know about where they can prove that, yes, they knew ahead of time that she was already dead based on statements from Brian, maybe in text message or email.
I'm trying to send Joe Murray a link because he's chomping.
I was just going to suggest that because I'd love to.
He's chomping at the bit to get in here, so I'm going to send him a link, but I don't want him to get too outrageous on us tonight. No,
I really would like to hear his oral argument on this, because I think, listen, the way that the judge put out the ruling, it sounds quite logical to me. Now, I'm a detective. I'm a police officer. I'm not a lawyer, but the wording that he used does sound logical if there is that threshold met that they can prove that they knew ahead of time. That's really, I think, what it really remains to be seen. And I think that if that fact is there and the judge has that knowledge, that may be why he proceeded forward with the case. So I guess
I don't think there is any doubt that the Laundries knew that A, Gabby Petito was dead, B, that their son killed him, C, that their son was heading home from Wyoming to Florida, and D, that he had her truck. So all of those truths, I mean, and then, the attorney.
How about the egregious behavior of the Laundries when the family was trying to contact them and the family actually went to the house? That's egregious what they did, that they just slammed the door in their face or didn't answer their call, didn't say anything. I mean, the van is in the driveway. Brian came back. I mean, it's obvious. Who's he going to call? He called his family. He went back home to his mother and father. So he must have told them at some point, if he wrote this journal of what happened to her, he had to tell them at some point. I think it's really, illogical to think that they didn't know. So, hopefully there is some type of evidence.
Absolutely.
Civil suit pitting the families of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie against each other. A circuit court judge has denied a motion from the Laundries to dismiss the claim filed against them by the parents of Gabby Petito. They claim the Laundries knew their son killed Gabby and didn't tell authorities. Joining us now is News Nation national correspondent Brian Enton. And Brian, what does this motion of dismissal mean?
Well, Rudabeh, this is a big victory for Gabby Petito's family. Essentially, this means that the civil case can move forward. The judge made the ruling this morning, sent out a statement this morning saying that the motion for dismissal was rejected and that the case would move forward. They are suing Brian Laundrie's parents, claiming they knew Gabby was dead during the search and did not tell authorities or Gabby's family, causing extensive pain and suffering to the Gabby Petito family. Gabby Petito, as we all know, went on a cross-country road trip with Brian Laundrie, and he murdered her in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. In his ruling, the judge said that the Laundries had the right to remain silent, but said the issue is the Laundries were not totally silent. Through their attorney, they released a statement saying they hoped the search was successful. The Petitos claim even when that statement came out, the Laundries knew Gabby was dead the whole way. So this now paves the way for there to be a civil trial, which could really be very, very interesting, Rudabeh, because that means that evidence could come out that we haven't learned about so far.
What kind of evidence? What else is there that we don't know about?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Petito attorney this morning told me that they will try to get text messages and emails from the Laundries. Emails and text messages between family members during the time that Gabby Petito was missing. Those are things that we haven't seen before.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to News.
So there you have it. We said it. They're going to find text messages, emails, electronic, the testimonial evidence, maybe handwritten evidence, forensic evidence in the van. So all kinds of evidence that would have been out. Joe Murray, I sent you the link. I don't know if you.
I just texted him too, Billy. I don't know if he didn't.
Yeah, he's.
He may be out. Hopefully, he can come on from the car if he's not home.
It's hard. It's hard to do it on the fly, but I did just send him the link.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe he is on the phone and it's more difficult. So, folks, this. I mean, for the obviously for the Petito family, this is great news, and I think more than being compensated in a financial way, they really want to get the truth out there. The truth is horrible in this case. Their daughter was murdered by her fiance, and the truth was hidden for months and months. And the Laundrie family hid the truth with an assist from their attorney, Stephen Bertolino. And, you know, you could think what you want about an attorney. Yeah, an attorney is your personal advocate. I don't have to like the guy. You know what I mean? And you don't have to like the guy, what he did. You know, he held these secrets in that kept the secret about the murder of a young girl who had a family that loved her. And as I said, I don't have to like that guy and what he did. I understand he's doing his job, as they say, you know, and that's what he was doing. But I still find it somewhat egregious.
Listen, Billy, I agree with you 100% on everything you said. I don't like what he did. I don't like the way he came across. I don't like the Laundries, how they acted toward this whole thing. Their posture was terrible. But again, you made the point. An attorney is supposed to protect his client. That's what he was doing. He was doing his job. We don't have to like it. We don't have to swallow it. We don't have to accept it, but that is the law, and it's within the law to remain quiet, remain silent. And, you know, I'm not saying that he architected the story that Brian wrote on paper, so to speak. However, he may have suggested something of that nature, and Brian said, yeah. You know, a lawyer can tell you, you know, if this happened this way, it would be better for you in court, or if it happened that way. You know, he can make suggestions to you, and then you tell him, yes, that's the way it happened. So again, you know, an attorney is contacted, a client or a person, you know, anybody, an individual says, listen, my girlfriend is dead. You know, she was killed at my hands. Without going into too much detail, the attorney would probably say, all right, stop before you go into it. You know, how did it happen? This happened, that happened. And again, so, you know, the attorney could have supplied the story that he wrote on paper. That story was definitely self-serving had he gone to court. I think that would have been the defense mechanism that they would have employed to put up a defense had he been arrested and charged with Gabby's murder.
Triathlete New York. The sad thing is the Laundries knew.
Yes.
If I had a son that came home without his girlfriend, really, the truth will come out. But I feel for the Petitos, the truth will come out. If they had any love for Gabby, they would have done the right thing from the beginning, and they didn't. You know, the other night when I was on talking about this case, I also questioned that. Joe Murray just showed up. There he is. He's got his flag.
No.
He's always got his tie from the equipment section. He's got his beard nicely trimmed. Let me just make my point, Joe, before I bring you on.
Yes.
one of the things is that had this been handled differently, and again, we're all 2020, we have the crystal ball 2020 hindsight, but potentially if this had been handled differently, Brian Laundrie could be alive. He would be in prison potentially or facing a trial, and potentially it could have got pled down to a manslaughter. But we never learned that whether or not that could have happened, because his legal advice was to remain silent, and everyone remained silent. And as a result, he committed suicide. And I'm not blaming that on his attorney. And his attorney also cannot predict what his client is going to do. But it was just a suggestion I made the other night that potentially, had it been handled a little bit differently, potentially there could have been a different outcome. Joe, I'm going to remove Phil and myself from here, and I'm going to give you the whole screen. But please don't piss off my audience. All right?
Thanks, Bill. Okay, so this is a very interesting decision, and to me, it shocks me because of the way the judge wrote it. So essentially, he's saying we need not discuss the fact that there was no legal duty for them to act, the Laundries, the parents, Christopher and Roberta. And he goes right to the statement of Bertolino, and he recites the statement on page 2 of the decision. Let me just read it. Bear with me. It's our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming on behalf of the Laundrie family. So he's speaking on behalf of the parents. It is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family. That's a very benign statement. It doesn't say we know she's alive, we know she's dead. It doesn't say anything. It's a benign well wish. I hope you reunite with her. Okay. They're saying, and the court is saying, and I knew this because he alluded to this during the oral argument. The judge said, isn't it a fact that Johnny Depp was just found liable for a statement made by his attorney? And in fact, it's clear. This statement speaks on behalf of the Laundrie family. So it's absolutely imputed to them, at least at this stage, the complaint stage, because you have to look at the complaint and the allegations within the complaint in a light most favorable to the party who's trying to oppose the dismissal. So the Laundries is trying to move to dismiss. So they have to give every favorable inference to the plaintiffs in this case for what they wrote in the complaint. Here's the interesting part. The judge talks about how this statement, he even cited a couple of cases. The statement alone cannot be looked at in a vacuum. It has to be looked at in context. That's where I see him go wrong. And I can't believe the way he wrote this. So the very next thing he says, that statement was made on September 14th by Bertolino, Mr. Bertolino. Then it says right after that in the decision, Bill, I sent you the decision. I don't know if you could bring it up. On September 16th, 2 days later, the attorney for Gabby's family issued a letter to Christopher and Roberta, which provided, we are writing this letter to ask you to help find our beautiful daughter. Now listen to this. We understand you are going through a difficult time and your instinct to protect your son is strong. What are they saying? What they're saying is, we know you're covering for him. We know he did something to her. We're not believing your statement that you put out. Okay, then he goes on and he says, we ask you to put yourselves in our shoes. We haven't been able to sleep or eat, and our lives are falling apart. Then they say, we believe you know the location of where Brian left Gabby. We beg you to tell us. What are they saying in the complaint? We don't believe Bertolino's statement. We don't believe it. 2 days later, they wrote this
Yeah,
back.
but you know something, Joe, but that's neither here nor there, because there's going to be,
you're wrong.
there's
You're
going to be
wrong,
other
Bill.
evidence. There's going to be other evidence that shows that they
Bill,
knew.
Bill. On a motion to dismiss, you look at what they call the four corners of the complaint. What are the allegations in the complaint? and you have to determine if the statement attributed to the parents is so outrageous beyond the pale.
Joe, I got it.
Wait. That caused them this extreme emotional, outrageous distress.
Right.
By their own words in the complaint, they said they never believed that statement. So
Yeah, but Joe, they're saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they're saying that on the 16th, he came back to Florida on either the 30th or the 1st of September. And if there is indication that during his trip back, because we believe she was killed on the 27th,
yes.
I think he got back on the 30th. Let's say there's text messages or an email where he says, yeah, I killed her. And now you're talking about they don't believe it on the 16th at that point based on the statement. Now, I believe that statement was put out 5 days before her body was found. Now, her body was found, I believe, later on in September. But the bottom line is, if they can establish, Joe, now you're the lawyer, you correct me if I'm wrong. If they can establish by a text message or an email, let's say on September 1st, that he says, I killed her, or even before September 1st, I killed her, it was an accident, whatever. And they can establish that. Now, that statement goes out. Now, all that time, the judge uses the word intentional infliction of emotional distress. Correct. They did due diligence by trying to find her, by going to the house. They saw the van in the driveway. So, and they didn't answer any text messages. They didn't answer any phone calls. So that's where I think the infliction of the intentional distress comes in. Now, you're making a great point that they're putting that letter on the 16th saying that they're basically saying we don't believe that.
But we're putting the cart, Joe.
Me emotional distress if I don't believe it.
No, but Joe, we're putting the cart before the horse. He already ruled. The case is going forward.
No, it's not. If they want, if they have the money or the attorney can do it, they can file what's called an interlocutory appeal. You don't have to wait for the case to be over. You could do it by order to show cause to go to the appellate court to review this obvious error. It's an
he's telling them to settle.
That's why I honestly, this judge overstepped. He overstepped himself.
I think Joe Murray better fly. You better fly to Florida, Joe.
I'm telling you, by his own words, he put this in the two statements together. Bertolino's statement on the 14th and their attorney's letter on the 16th, essentially saying we don't believe that. How could it cause extreme emotional distress if they don't believe it? It didn't cause
they were pulling their
distress.
hair out of their head. They were saying in their letter, they're not eating, they're not sleeping, looking for the
That's because she's missing and he murdered her and she's dead. And they
I
knew
know
it. They really knew it inside. They knew he killed her. They did not believe Bertolino's statement. And if they don't believe it, it didn't cause them to believe she's alive somewhere. They knew it was bullshit.
Joe, they really didn't know one way or the other. They didn't know the location. Listen, they probably knew she was dead, but they didn't know the location of her body. She hadn't been recovered yet.
Of course.
And them putting that statement out saying that
act.
Okay, but then
act.
I think that the timing of when they put the statement out saying that they hope that the search is successful and that she's reunited with her family. I don't think that they meant reunited dead. They meant reunited alive, Joe.
There's also
I'm not saying what he meant, but what I'm saying is he didn't say alive. You know what I mean?
Joe, there's also
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
There's
matter.
also the potential that they had access to other evidence through police sources that may have went right to them with the evidence and told them, look, we know this, we know that, and we know this. That happens frequently in cases, as you know.
But you're
they
right,
could have been told by the FBI, she's dead. We know because we have this, and this.
Bill, you're making my point. You're making my point. He says that.
I don't want to make your point, Joe.
You're saying, the judge said that statement by Bertolino, that alone was outrageous conduct because it gave them a false sense of hope. Bullshit. They said in the complaint, we don't believe it. And you're right. What you're saying, they probably did. You know how law enforcement updates the family. They probably did get inside information to lead them to believe that, yes, he did murder her. They
Joe,
did
let me
not
ask you this.
believe it.
Joe, let me ask you this real
Yeah.
quick. This is just now, I'm going to lay out what a civil jury is. It's 6 people, and you need the preponderance of the evidence, which is 4 to vote in your favor. Now, if this case goes before a jury of 6 people, and they say, look at the actions of the Laundries prior to her even being reported missing. Now, what I mean by that is all the phone calls, the text messages, they don't respond. Then, if you have some type of evidence, or whether it be an email or a text message from Brian to his family, or that the family to the lawyer, or something indicating that they knew that that she was dead, and then you have the statement that comes out, I think that they're going to get the 4 out of the 6 jurors to rule in favor of the Petitos. I really do.
They can't, and I'll tell you why. They won't be allowed to reach that question with regards to the Laundries' inaction. This is only a motion to dismiss, where you have to look at the allegations in the complaint, a light most favorable to the plaintiff, giving them every positive inference from the facts. Then after discovery, you have something called a summary judgment motion. Now that we know the facts, we have sworn testimony, we have a document exchange, here's what we have. That legal conclusion that the judge kind of sidestepped and went right to Bertolino's statement, there is no duty for the Laundries to speak or to act in any way.
He said that already. He said that.
The only thing is the statement that Bertolino said on their behalf. Clearly,
Right.
It was on their behalf. And he analyzed that, similar to the Johnny Depp situation.
Yeah, but
the
judge was saying that had they remained silent, he would have ruled in the Laundries' favor. But they didn't remain silent.
Phil, that's what I'm saying. The jury will not be allowed to consider their inaction and their silence as inflicting emotional distress.
Yeah, but it's not inaction. It was the action. It was the statement. All
right, guys, I don't want to argue this case here. I wanted to move on. No, I wanted to move on to something else. But at first, I just, folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you're not subscribed, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel members with 5 different members. I want to go to a quick little commercial. I don't know why I'm doing a commercial, because he's all over this already, but we got to do his commercial here.
I'm going to do the commercial for Joe Murray, but I'm telling you, this guy's going to be a judge one day. He'll be Judge Murray. Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence, and he knows his shit when it comes to the law. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you can email Joe at joe@jmurray-law.com.
Folks, we were following another case, and it was the case of Caitlin Armstrong, who shot and killed that professional bicyclist. And guess what? She was just apprehended in Costa Rica by the Felony Apprehension Squad. And we'll have a little report on this. She's accused of killing her love rival. She fled to Costa Rica with a false passport. How do these people come up with these false passports and get it to pass with Homeland Security? Flew out of LaGuardia. Flew into LaGuardia, and then from LaGuardia to Costa Rica. And
actually, I think she went to Newark a couple of days later, Billy.
I think that they had a pretty good idea where she was the whole time, and they were probably just searching in Costa Rica to find her. And apparently she was staying at some youth hostel. And anyway, positive story. The girl that she killed was a real superstar that had really a great life ahead of her. And she snuffed it out by And we don't know if, in fact, there's more to this case. We don't know if the boyfriend was involved at all. They really didn't get into that. He was brought in early on in the case, and he was released. So we could take it that he wasn't involved, but that doesn't mean he wasn't involved. Let me see if I can get this up on the screen. Another one. This one actually has sound, though.
Armstrong, the most wanted woman in the USA, is in custody today, accused of murdering a love rival. The fugitive yoga instructor was apprehended in the beautiful resort town of Santa Teresa in Costa Rica. She was on the run for 43 days.
The woman on the lam has been captured in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica is 2,000 miles from the United States. Armstrong is a suspect in the shooting death of a world-class cyclist, 25-year-old Mariah Wilson. Authorities say Armstrong went into a jealous rage, suspecting the victim was having an affair with her live-in boyfriend, Colin Strickland. According to one report, Armstrong had undergone plastic surgery to elude capture. The sensational saga began when Armstrong's vehicle was spotted leaving the scene of the murder in Austin last May. Surveillance tape subsequently showed her flying from Austin on May 14th with her yoga mat on her back to New York City. It's believed Armstrong also spent time at a yoga retreat in upstate New York, where her lookalike sister works. Authorities say she left Newark International Airport on May 18th. En route to Costa Rica using a fake passport.
It was just a matter of time. 43 days in hindsight is not a long time for somebody like Armstrong. She had cash. She sold her car. She was doing well in real estate. So she went dark. She was off the grid for a while. But you know what I always say, you can run, but you can't hide.
I'm so happy that the Fugitive Enforcement Division found her and not Dog, the bounty hunter, you know?
Oh, yeah.
People are always suggesting to me on this show, why don't you call Dog? I said, I try to tell people, Dog is a cartoon character. He's not real, you know? And then they get mad at me because they're like, Dog is real. Dog has 10,000 apprehensions. I said, oh, really? Really?
You know, Billy, we've been following this case right from the onset. And when they reported a couple of weeks back, they reported that on May 13th, she flew from Austin to Houston, then from Houston to New York, and she landed in LaGuardia. A couple of days later, I believe on the 18th, was when she flew out of Newark to Costa Rica. But now what they reported initially is that they spotted her in Newark, but they don't know whether she left. She didn't leave under her real name. So I think with the video surveillance, they must have tracked her to a specific terminal, a gate, and they must have saw, because she had that bright red hair and she wasn't that hard to spot. And they must have took the manifest, went through it, day by day, and figured out that she had gone to Costa Rica. And then I guess it was just a matter of time to track where she was exactly. They had to do a process of elimination, probably with the names, whatever name she had on the passport. Obviously, it had to be a female name. So it didn't take much time, 43 days for someone that had, it sounds like she had this pretty well planned. She had the fake passport. She had some cash. So 43 days is not really a long time, but the long Costa Rica, and she'll be heading back to the United States sometime soon.
You know what's amazing about this? Here she is. She's obviously educated. She's a beautiful girl. I mean, look at that mane of hair. She travels with a yoga mat on her back. I know when Joe Murray travels, he has his boxing gloves on his back, just in case.
Boxing gloves and his law book on his
just in case he runs into some detective that mouths off to him. I know Phil travels with a Spumoni Gardens bag with a veal cutlet Parmesan Hero in the back, slung over his shoulder. But then the Homeland
Security. You travel
people,
with a Cabernet in your back.
Yeah, that's right. A bottle of Cabernet. Oh, you can't bring that on the plane though. But when you think about throwing your life away, she threw her life away.
Yeah, she sure did.
It's just like, would that relationship have lasted? The one with her boyfriend? I mean, so now she throws this girl, Mo, who she killed, the professional bicyclist. She kills her, and then she throws her own life away because now she's going to prison probably for 25 to life. I mean, why people do things, I mean, I don't know.
In the passion, she could probably plead out to a 15-year bid or something like that. But either way, she destroyed this young girl's life, who was a world-class bicycle racer. I mean, she was right up there in the top in the world, and I guess she just she let the rage get the best of her.
Someone, Napoleon Buckles, is asking, I wonder how long it will before Dr. Phil has Caitlin's family on his show. What I'd like to know is that how many times did she do yoga prior to fleeing to Newark? Oh, you don't like my $50,000 watch? Sorry.
Yeah. What a tragedy, though. One thing it reaffirms is don't mess with Texas. Boy, these Texans don't play around.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Absolutely. The Texas Marshals don't play around. They got right on her track, and they got
even with the mask and stuff. I was so impressed by that. How did they find her?
Well, the original flight that she took, she flew under her own name. When she went from Boston to Houston and Houston to LaGuardia, they tracked her pretty quickly. She was using her real name. She spent a couple of days in New York. I don't know if she attained the fake passport in New York or not. However, on the 18th, they had her in Newark, but they had her just on video surveillance. They spotted her, I guess, some sharp, eagle-eyed, TSA or Marshal caught her, from her description. And but they said that she was in the airport, but she didn't leave the airport on a flight under her own name. So I guess they started checking, with the video. You can't move anywhere in an airport without being on video surveillance. So they probably tracked her right to the gate that she went on. It's not that hard to do. I mean, it's tedious, it's long, but you can do it. Other than in a bathroom, I think is the only place where you wouldn't have video surveillance in an airport these days. So they must have tracked her to a gate. They knew what flight. They get pulled a manifest, and just gotta figure out, females, they'll knock all the males out of the equation. Elderly and young, they knock them out, and then they narrow it down, and they just start going through those names till they figure out who was the fake passport and where she went. And then I guess they did a little
well, hey Phil, when you fly and you go up to the first level of security, and now you have your mask on, they'll go, well, pull your mask down so they can see your face, and they look at it versus your license. I mean, look, one of the hardest things you could do as a cop is someone hands you a picture and goes, go grab this guy. He's out on the street. How hard is it to match up that photo with 1,000 people on the street? Not so easy, right? You tell civilians that. You say, oh, yeah, they gave me a picture. They said, go find this guy. Oh, so that sounds easy. Oh, really? Try that one day. Just get a picture of someone you don't know, and now go out on the street and go find them. And we did it all the time, but not so easy, though. Right?
Very, very, very difficult. I had a guy one time that was wanted on a homicide and numerous robberies where he was hitting senior citizens over the head with a pipe and robbing them. And he had been tossed. They did a 250, which is a stop, question, and frisk for him, and we had the photo of him. So we went and showed it around, and there was some guy that was dealing on a corner, and I said, when we pulled up, he went to run. I said, don't run. I just want you to look at this photo. I showed him the photo. He said the guy just left. He was wearing a gold jacket, and when he said gold jacket, it was a pretty warm day. Sure enough, we did a quick a canvas through the area, and I saw a guy walking into a bodega holding a gold jacket, jumped out of the car, went in. Sure enough, it was him. It put an end to the pattern, solved the homicide. But not that easy, Bill. You make a good point. Unless you got one of these in your chin. I think Bill might have one, but he's covering it up with a beard.
We went, and I told this story once before on another show. We were looking for a guy in Kennedy Airport that was flying to Chile, and he just murdered his friend earlier in that day. His friend, who was also from Chile, came to Washington Heights and had an affair with his wife. So he found out about it. He flew from Chile to Washington Heights and killed his friend, stabbed him to death. Wow. And through investigation, we ID'd him and everything. And we tracked him to the airport. And had he gone on that plane to Chile and got up in the air, he was gone. Because Chile has no extradition, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to see his face when we picked him out of the airport. Oh, my God. it was like, oh no,
Oh shit.
Yeah, he never got on that plane, and now he's never going back to Chile. I don't think.
Yeah. You brought up Manhattan, Billy. There was that horrible situation last night on the Upper East Side where I think it was a 20-year-old mother of a 3-month-old baby was executed. They're obviously naming the boyfriend as a suspect, but
Phil, you know what I didn't like about that? To me, as a trained homicide investigator, right away I knew it was the baby daddy. Right away, and they're using that for gun control. They're using that. There's too many guns on the streets. They're using that for political purposes. And it's bullshit because the police knew right away this is the baby daddy. But they used it to scare the shit out of the whole neighborhood because now they're just saying too many guns. Has nothing to do with guns. This was a targeted individual by someone that had a horrendous relationship with her. Yeah. And it's the baby daddy.
They say he has a long criminal history.
Of course he does. And the other thing they wouldn't do, they refuse to ID him. Again, he's a male wearing dark clothing. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Alvin Bragg.
I think it's a little more than that, Joe. It's the media. The media has an obligation to report facts. Now, just saying male, I mean, white, Hispanic, black, whatever it is, you got to say it. What's this male nonsense?
Yeah, but would Anamone have responded to that job and not put out there exactly what he found or exactly what he had? I mean, this is just who we have, our leaders now.
But
like
Joe,
the DA, Morgenthau would have grabbed the mic and said, I want to explain, this is what we have, this is what we're doing. I just think it's law enforcement right now is in a weak state.
But Joe, they're playing the politics too because it's disgusting. I think they knew minute one.
Expect that from them. They know, but
they knew minute one. This is the baby daddy. It's the boyfriend. They're having a long, ongoing dispute. He fits the description. It's probably him. Instead of scaring the shit out of the whole neighborhood and saying we got a guy out there who killed a 20-year-old woman pushing a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah.
Doesn't that scare the shit out of the neighborhood?
Yeah.
And guess what? You didn't have to scare the neighborhood because we probably know who this is, and it was a targeted hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the gun, it would have been a knife. Like this guy he was on a mission.
Yeah. But they wanted to get political mileage out of it. They started talking about ghost guns. They started and Adams. It started with Adams.
Yeah.
And it got more and more sickening as the night progressed. Even, my son called me from the city. He goes, "Oh, Dad," he goes, a 20-year-old lady was killed on the other. I said, I know. We know who did it too. The baby daddy did. Don't worry about it. Has nothing to do with you, but it scares the entire city because the way they reported it.
The reporting is too politically correct. I watch the news and you'll see a video and you could clearly see the whether the person is Caucasian or black. You could see the ethnicity of the person, but they'll just say, and the police are looking for a male with dark clothing. I mean, why? You're showing the video of the person. You can clearly see what their ethnicity is. Just say it. I mean, when we were, training as a rookie and you got on the scene of a robbery, let's say, or a burglary, and somebody just fled, the first thing you do is you're telling the person, all right, what did he look like? And you're putting the description out. Shouldn't you be doing that on the news when you're looking for somebody that just executed a 20-year-old woman? You should definitely, you're obligated to report the facts, and they don't. It's just terrible.
It is. I used to have a guy in the 2-3 squad that was from the Virgin Islands, and he would go up to someone to get a description, and he would say, "How he look?" We used to die laughing. We used to go, "Z, it's what did he look like?" Oh, okay. How he look. I loved it. We had so many laughs over that,
The real sad part of this whole thing is, in spite of this high crime and these real violent, vicious, random attacks where people are getting killed, the guy on the subway going to brunch, in spite of all this, and we have prosecutors that don't want to prosecute, we have, the whole defunding the police and all that, you would think that people would be motivated to get out and go to the polls and vote their conscience. 16% of the people came out and voted. It was pathetic. I was with Andrew Giuliani. We were in Queens going to a couple different schools. It was a ghost town. It was an absolute ghost town. There was nobody around.
You know, Joe, I think that
kept
people,
shaking his hand because I felt bad. Somebody should shake his hand. You know what I mean? It was terrible.
I think that people in the New York metropolitan area, you have the extreme left, and then the rest don't vote. The only people that vote are the extreme left. No one else votes.
I associate it with the campaigns, the parties are like organized crime. Think about this. The state party leader is the boss. And then they have their county leaders. That's the capo regime. You know, these are the guys who, and then they have.
You're getting into Tommy Bates territory here, Joe, but go ahead, continue.
And they got the district leaders. Those are the soldiers who are out there on the street in the clubs, bringing people in, and they have associates that they work with. So when the boss says, we're back in Lee Zeldin, he sends the word down to the capos who get together with their, soldiers, the district leaders, and they get their associates to turn out. And they have their regular absentee ballot people that they tell who to vote. And when you have a low turnout, the bosses of these two crime families, the Republicans and Democrats, they pick their candidate. And look who won. Hochul by a landslide, backed by the party.
Yeah, but Joe, do you know that
by a landslide, backed by the party?
Do you know that Hochul has $32 million in a war chest? She's only been around for about 8 months. How does she already have $32 million?
How? Because we're like the most corrupt state in the country.
The Democratic Party is throwing a lot of money her way.
Yeah, but both parties are corrupt. I mean, they're terribly corrupt.
Oh, yeah.
And, the Republican Party went out of their way to try to knock people off the ballot. They were trying to get Giuliani knocked off the ballot. That's why I backed him, because I hate this corruption. So when you're the outsider, I'm going to back you.
You know, he did pretty good, Giuliani.
He did. The city, he did very well in the city.
Yeah. He did. I mean,
he won 4 of the 5 boroughs. He came in second, I think, in Manhattan, but he won every other borough.
For a newcomer, a guy that really never held political office, I think he did pretty good. I'm going to watch out for that kid. I met him over in Brooklyn at Spumoni Gardens a few times, and he seems like he's squared away, that kid.
Triathlete.
I like him.
Triathlete New York, thank you for the 199 super chat and for the great compliment. Great job. Always enjoy your show. Guys, I just want everyone to know Phil's going to Florida on a little bit of a vacation. I don't know what the veal is like on the west coast of Florida. He may have to call ahead and send a team to find out if they're pounding that veal.
My wife has got reservations, or she was talking about changing some of them today. She's on the phone, but we're gonna have a good time. I'm sorry.
Where on the West Coast? Naples?
No, in that area. We're going to the West Coast.
You don't want to give up where he is. There might be a hit team sent his way.
Sammy the Bull may send somebody to pay me a visit.
Best meal in the city.
Oh, that's funny. Hey,
So,
by the way,
I'm going to send a video. I'm going to try and do something from there. So we'll see what happens over the next few days.
if you get an opportunity, you got to see the Elvis movie. I took Ange.
Everybody, my daughter, my 23-year-old daughter doesn't even know who Elvis is. Went to see it, and now she's an Elvis fan overnight. She can't tell me enough about the.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
My wife was saying we got to see it when we get back. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Alicia B, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It must have been Joe talking about Elvis. Thank you, Joe, for coming to the party. Love to give a take.
Thank you,
Alicia B. I
Thank
love
you,
you.
Alicia B. Guys, a lot of people have been reaching out to me, and I know in the where we have the Streamlabs thing, everyone's getting upset. You can support POC. I'm going to have Josh change that to POTC. I know people are saying, "Oh, that means people of color." I mean it to mean police off the cuff. And when we first put that up, that's why I know people get upset over the most mundane stuff, but I'll have Josh, our engineer, fix that.
Yeah.
And hopefully no one will get upset. The other day, someone got upset about me. I spelled in the title the Petito's name wrong. I put 2 T's instead of 1, and it said the lady writes, "I'm unsubscribing." I was like, wow, if that's all it takes for you to unsubscribe, man, I better take a spelling bee or something, you know?
Bill, it's funny. I had to look at it. I wrote Pitito, but I thought it was two T's. Thinking about it.
No, it's Petito. Yeah, Petito. Yeah. And I had spelled it the other night with two T's. And oh my God, you would have thought that I failed. It was the state spelling bee, and I forgot to pronounce.
Of course, you're a college professor. Bill,
I guess. I spell
now,
stuff.
You should know how to spell Petito.
Everyone spells stuff wrong, and even Joe, the attorney.
So just getting back to this real quick, there's a simple solution to this, because this judge is gonna be embarrassed at the way he wrote this and the mistake he made. They can do something called a motion to re-argue. Whenever a judge misinterprets or misapprehends the law or the facts, you have 30 days to file a motion to re-argue. And they should really do that, because in his own decision, he compares them. The one is right over the other on page 2. I emailed it to you. Clearly, that statement put out by Bertolino meant nothing to them. They dismissed it out of hand and didn't believe it. So how could that be the cause of this extreme, outrageous conduct? It can't be. It's impossible. And then the Laundries themselves have no duty to speak or no duty to act. So the one statement that Bertolino made is the reason why he's allowing it to go forward. But by his own words and his own decision, I would show it to him, and he may change his opinion.
All right, Joe, I'm going to send the judge a copy of this episode. Phil, final words.
Final words. Joe, thanks so much for coming on. It was great to have you on. Real quick, I think that he cited that they didn't remain silent about it. They did make the statement. So we'll see where this goes. This is going to be an interesting one. Everybody should really enjoy 4th of July weekend coming up. The country is a great country. It's the greatest country in the world. That's why 2 million people are trying to get in the last year. Everybody just try and enjoy yourself. Have a good 4th of July. I'm going to be away, but I'm going to try and do something, and I'll send it to Bill. Hopefully maybe we'll even do a show from down there. So POTC rocks. Very good. Very good. Schmitty, $2
thank you, Schmitty, for the $2 super chat. Just so you guys know, in keeping up with Bill Cannon news, and I don't mean to make the show all about me, but I'm looking into spending the entire winter in Florida from November 1st through May 1st. And if I can make it happen, I'm going to do the show from down there, and maybe
better have a studio in that.
Yeah, I'll bring you down, Phil. And I want to spend the winter down there. I want to see what it's like to live there in the winter. In fact, I would love to one of these days move to Florida and make that my home, because I can't keep track of all of these leftists running for office in this area,
Bill, one thing unrelated I just wanted to say, because it is 4th of July weekend. I had been working on an article that if I couldn't get it published, I was going to buy ad space to publish it myself. I've just been so busy at work. On the Declaration of Independence, so many people have never read it. They've never read it. And on our country's birthday, and this document, this is the founding document. I'm just asking anyone who's listening, if you could please just read it. Just read that, the Declaration of Independence. Google it. There is so much meaning. And I was writing it by modernizing it with what's happening in the world today, and how those words are so meaningful right now, with all the stuff that we're facing in this country and the fights, the left, the right. So I would just ask people to just Google it, just read it. It is your country. It is your country, and it is a founding document of this country. Other than that, have a wonderful 4th of July.
Everyone have a wonderful 4th of July. Safe. Be with your family, hug your kids, kiss your wife, say hello to your brother-in-law, whatever you got to do. Eat a veal cutlet Parmesan hero. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe.
Stay safe, everyone, and happy 4th.
Happy.
One episode just ain't enough.